Today, it's great wildlife spectacles while waiting for wildebeest in a fog. How you doing, folks? Welcome again to Wildlife Wednesday. I spoke last week about starling murmurations, one of two great wildlife spectacles I had chosen as an experiment from a list of 10 which I had searched for on Google, using the terms greatest wildlife spectacles and top 10 wildlife events. Now, I could have used many variations of these, such as most spectacular wildlife migrations or some other form of wording. But my point was that regardless of what search term you use, the answers are generally, if not identical, certainly very similar regardless of their source. There are many events in nature other than these obvious top of the list happenings which can fill you with awe and wonder in their own way, and they are deserving of inclusion on any list of wildlife events that must be experienced personally to fully understand their significance in the natural world and to appreciate their beauty. For instance, have you ever heard the dawn chorus? I have, and I know that millions of people worldwide gather every year at pre-arranged locations to experience this wondrous event together. But even without joining one of these organised events, just wandering alone in your local park or forest in the early hours of a spring morning, as the first light begins to defeat the darkness, can leave you with a feeling of pure joy. Being careful to avoid unnecessary noise by stepping on loose leaves or broken twigs and branches, and listening carefully to the first sound to reach your ears, it will most likely be a blackbird, probably somewhere around 4 a.m. or an hour before sunrise. The blackbird will be joined by other blackbirds, but also by wrens and robins and the songbirds of the forest, in a wonderful melodious chorus never to be forgotten. I have, of course, spoken about the dawn chorus before in episode 13, I think, so I leave further discussion of that alone for now and move on. Another wonderful wildlife experience for me was the first time I ever heard and saw the sights and sounds of a gannet colony. That was about 20 years ago. And you can check out a video of the colony here on my channel. I made this video a few years ago when I brought my two grandsons out to see these wonderful seabirds that inhabit Great Salty Island. Great Salty is the larger of a pair of small islands south of Kilmore Quay in County Wexford, which draws photographers and bird watchers from all over Ireland and further afield every year. It's the breeding ground not only for the aforementioned gannets, but for puffins, razorbills, guillemots and many other bird species. Another species I love to see when I visit Great Salty is a member of the crow family, the chough. But what makes this bird so appealing is its red beak and legs. I will at some stage soon make an episode of Wildlife Wednesday about the chough and the other members of the crow family. But that's a story for another day. For today, I get back to my Google search for wildlife spectacles, and the second spectacular event which I had personal experience of, the Great Wildebeest Migration. This particular event is often item number 1 on these lists of great wildlife spectacles, and having witnessed it firsthand, I can easily understand why. Although wildebeest comprise the main body of this huge mass of wildlife, it also includes many other animals such as zebra, eland, gazelles and impalas, and is generally thought of and described as a yearly event. But it is in actual fact a continuous lifelong journey for these animals as they travel in a more or less circular pattern through the Serengeti in Tanzania and the Masai Mara in Kenya, a journey that encapsulates the whole life cycle of these amazing antelopes from birth to death. The most dangerous part of this life cycle is the crossing of the Mara River, which must be completed several times during this flight and fight for life. And this is where I come into the story. I had always harboured a desire to visit this great ecosystem comprising the Masai Mara and Serengeti, to see for myself the amazing abundance of wildlife which inhabits it. Yes, I had seen many wonderful documentary movies and wildlife programs about the area, but I still felt the need to see it for myself. Little did I know I would have to die first before achieving my ambition. Now that statement needs a little explaining before I continue. And as I have dealt with it before and intend at some stage in the future to go deeper in detail into it, I'll just give you a brief outline before I continue. Basically, in late 2014, I had a massive heart attack, spent 5 weeks in a coma, during which time doctors say I literally died 3 times. Obviously, I came back on all 3 occasions, otherwise there's no story. And having come back, I started a bucket list, and top of my list was a wildlife photographic safari to the Masai Mara. So now we can get back to my witnessing of the Great Migration. Having achieved my ambition, I arrived in the Mara on a Thursday afternoon in late October. And although I would have loved to see the Great Migration, I had more or less accepted the fact that it was too late in the season, and chances were this would not happen. But luckily for me, nobody told the wildebeest they were not supposed to be there this late in the year. And they were in fact about 2 weeks later than usual, arriving at this crossing point at Entum Camp. And the following day, Friday, they started to gather on the bank of the Mara facing the camp. At first, their numbers were small, just a few dozen animals who were reluctant to cross. Safety in numbers, I suppose, because as the group swelled in size, some of them became brave, and I witnessed my first ever crossing of the Mara. I was thrilled, but little did I know that in less than 24 hours, I would witness thousands of these animals gather. And with the first few brave ones deciding it was time to take a chance, a crossing the like of which I had only seen on TV began. And for more than an hour, this massive animal life had me witnessing, filming and photographing the most spectacular scene I had ever imagined. Although I'm a photographer first and foremost, I did shoot some video during my time in the Mara, just for family and friends to get a sense of what my experiences were like. But one short piece of video I did of this amazing crossing has now, almost 5 years later, had more than 6 million views on YouTube. And in a roundabout way, it has been partly responsible for my starting Wildlife Wednesday. So, to conclude this week's Wildlife Wednesday, I put together some short clips of video I shot while waiting for the wildebeest to cross the river. Starting with my arrival just after 7 a.m, which was an hour later than our usual start time, due to a heavy fog which had enveloped the camp, and because deep down I was sure I was about to witness something special. I was not disappointed.
Oh, what a horrible misty morning. Just approaching the lads here and they're waiting for me, but we're going nowhere in this. Absolutely nowhere.
Okay, so here we are.
Yep.
The wildebeest are gathering across the river, and we look sad. Why do we look sad? Because there's a bloody great mist. But let's see what happens.
there are thousands of them, literally thousands. Who would have ever believed that we could be so close to such an amazing phenomenon?
Well, thanks again for watching Wildlife Wednesday, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode, and I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe and give the channel a like. And don't forget, ring the bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Till next week, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands and continue to maintain social distancing. We're not out of the woods yet. Take care, folks. Bye.